Hey guys, it's God's Airsofters, and I'm Delta One here with A-Spec Airsoft, and today I'm going to be bringing you the internal reports of the JG AK-74U blowback. Now what you're staring at is the gearbox opened up, and of course they overdid it with the grease and all that, and so let's get on with the more important stuff. Here's their motor. It's quite nice for a JG. It's not so much as a high torque. The magnets are they're pretty nice, but it's more of a high speed motor because, well, I've held their high torque motors and they are a bit more harder to twist with your fingers on the Pioneer gear. So basically, it's a high speed. Now moving on to the more interesting part. Now JG has their standard reinforced gears, but what makes this so interesting is that they've put, I forget the part in the name for the moment, but it basically allows you, when it cycles, that pulls back the tab plate. Their tab plates have actually been stepped up a lot, considering they used to be all like crappy, and now they're actually kind of nice in a way. So this basically prevents it from misfeeding and actually makes sure that the air nozzle that you see here makes a full cycle back and allows you to feed your BB. In other words, resulting in better reliability. Now moving on, it's got their standard piston, nothing special until you look at the top of it. Now if you notice, they cut out a section for the blowback to, basically that's where the blowback system part sits, so it doesn't hit right here, because if it did, it wouldn't cycle all the way back. Now, they cut that in, and I'm pretty sure you can just use any regular old piston in here, but you just gotta make sure that you cut and measure this and cut that much part out so you can, reuse it. Now, I've done a good 2,000 rounds just toying around with this. The only thing I can see bad about this piston is that there is a chip on the fourth tooth. You can't really see it on the camera, but there's a little bit of a minor chip, nothing big, nothing really to complain about. Piston head's just their standard black piston head. It's nothing special. It is screwed on, and surprisingly I did find out that it is a M120 spring. They put a double air seal on the cylinder head up here, so you do get a lot better consistency. Now, as I said and mentioned earlier before, it is ball bearings. I was right and I was kind of wrong. There is 7mm ball bearings on the first gear right here, and then all of the other ones are just 7mm bushings. Which to me, I don't know why they did that, but apparently whatever works for JG works for JG. Now it does have the standard polycarb, spring guide. I would recommend getting a all metal spring guide, as always, on pretty much anything. Now, I do recommend re-greasing, which I'm going to. That's why I opened mine up. I'm going to re-grease and re-shim. The shimming is actually quite nice, but I personally like to re-shim anything that belongs to me. Now, it's just your standard, tube for the piston, and pretty much everything on this JG is good and will do the job, as opposed to some of their older models like the 06s, where they had plastic bushings and the motors were crap and all that other stuff. But now JG's all impressive and has redone all of their gearboxes, and they're now all reinforced, which is good, but they need to get a metal spring guide, which they haven't done yet for some reason. But other than that, this is a version 3 gearbox. Now it is quite different. On most version 3 gearboxes, you don't have this little kind of spikes sticking up here. Now here's the other part of the gearbox. As you can see right there, that's where as on all AKs, what keeps the top cover on, that little button, sits right there and there's an opening in between. As you can see, it's kind of cut a little bit. It's kind of hard to notice on the camera, but it is cut, and you will be able to see your piston move back and all that stuff, so you make sure there's nothing jammed up in there. Here's the piece that is attached to your bolt, the charging handle, which pulls back. There's a little indentation right there. You can see right there. That's what, when the piston comes back, that's what hits it, pulls that back, and which allows for the bolt to move back and forth on all that good stuff. So their tappet plate, I am going to talk about the tappet plate here for a second. The tappet plates on JGs have really stepped up, and I know most people don't know what tappet plates are, depending on how well your gearbox knowledge is. Now, the tappet plates on JGs have become quite respectable. I like their tappet plates now. I wouldn't mind having, I wouldn't go out of my way to find one, but, it is a little bit cheaper, and it does do the job, and tappet plates will come and go and break. There's no such thing as a metal one, because that would just not work. It would, but it would do a lot of damage to your gearbox. Now, I like their tappet plates. They've come a very far way on their tappet plates, and I'm very impressed, and all that good stuff. So, quite impressed what they've done, and I'm going to show you real quick. There's the ball bearing, and there's the 7mm bushings. I could have sworn they were ball bearings, but it doesn't matter. It's still good, and it makes sense because the blowback system is going to put a little more stress. But overall, this will last you quite an amount of time before you need to do any maintenance. Now, I do not recommend this to beginners because you honestly don't need to have a blowback system if you're a beginner, because if you're a beginner, normally your first AG you always break. But I recommend this to advanced to intermediate players that know how to work on their own gearboxes. But other than that, the only other thing that I wish JG would do is get better wiring. The wiring on it's just fine, but if you're going to turn this, if you're going to be real trigger happy on any gun, you always need to rewire it. I do like the fuses that they put in there. They put in the car fuses, which you see in cars. But other than that, JG has come a long way. I love what they've done. They've reinforced a lot of stuff, so you don't need to do any upgrades out of the box. And they've been doing an M120 spring on pretty much on this model. I don't know about their other models, because I've been shooting their other models in their M130s. But other than that, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. I've probably rambled on a little bit, but this has been the internal reports for the JG Blowback AK-74. Thanks for watching.